I have two of India's most prolific writers, and Mr. Varun Grover.
We can just start by promising that none of us are going to jail for this podcast.
Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik.
Every novel has a sex scene. The West is stupid, so let's not go there.
फैमिली बताती है किसी लड़की के साथ नहीं दिखना है, आपकी टांगे तोड़ देंगे। और फिर 26वें साल में आपके चाचा जी कार्ड लेकर आते हैं कि उस दिन तुम उस लड़की को शाम को 6 बजे मिलोगे, 8 बजे फेरे होंगे, 10 बजे you'll be having sex.
Pleasure doesn't have care about gender and sexuality. Pleasure is pleasure. Bhog is pleasure. We never had this idea that sex is bad.
आ रहा है?
Oh, good one. Durex is your man. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Durex Podcast. Today I dive deep into how literature shapes our perception of sex and intimacy. And to help me understand this better, I have two of India's most prolific writers. Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik, a mythologist and a writer, someone who's an expert on cultural truths. And Mr. Varun Grover, a national award-winning lyricist, writer, stand-up comedian and filmmaker. Welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you over because both of you, y'all create culture in so many ways. And I think what I'm most interested in is trying to understand how did we come to where we are today. And this is where I'd like you all to correct me, that a lot of our view on sex, sexuality and gender is shaped by Western philosophies and thinking and values, and that our Eastern literature on it is far more vast, far older, and far more nuanced than what the Age of Enlightenment from Europe gave us. So I really am so excited, I don't know where to start.
We can just start by promising that none of us are going to jail for this podcast. Okay? Let's promise that. Podcast के लिए तो जेल नहीं जाएंगे.
For me, it's like everybody talks about Indian knowledge systems. So आजकल मैं videos में देखता हूँ कि people are talking about Indian knowledge system. And then you'll have this person, very boring person, chanting something in Sanskrit, but he'll never talk about Kāma-shastra.
Yeah.
So you're talking about Indian knowledge system, and we have the largest collection of erotic manuals in the world.
Yeah.
They are very practical texts, very academic texts really, about pleasure. And pleasure is approached in a very academic way. And I think pleasure is very much, it's like they say that the sacred cow has one leg in dharma, artha. So dharma is there, artha is there, money has to be made. Kama is there, the third leg, which is pleasure has to be done, moksha, spirituality. So all 4 legs, you can't have a cow without 4 legs. And therefore, Kamadeva is part of the system. And I think that is just so liberating, because you're a culture which says that you cannot have a fulfilled life if there is no pleasure in your life.
Sahir wrote, संसार से भागे फिरते हो, भगवान को तुम क्या पाओगे?
Yeah, so
there's that line which simply says you have to enjoy the world to even get to God, enjoy the pleasures of this world. And I think sung by a courtesan in that film.
These are lines written and said in bhakti. Yeah. So where is it erotic? Is it devotional? It's like the plait of a girl. You don't know what comes first. It's a triveni. It's mixing of everything.
I think we see the differences only because we have a Western lens. Whereas before their influence, the erotic and the devotional could just be one.
Yeah.
Right?
There is
like
one Riti Kal in Hindi literature, which is just, poetry which is spiritual as well as erotic, which is full of Shringar Ras as well as it is still very, very spiritual. It is still about, union with God and Ras Leela and everything. And it is a big chunk. And just to come back to the Hindi film lyrics are, I think, very, very inspired by the Riti Kal and the Bhakti Kal. So these two, traditions or eras in Hindi poetry. And like Amir Khusro used to write erotic poetry or poetry which is now we can call double meaning, so to say, which is, with a lot of innuendo, with a lot of, nudge, wink, kind of a thing. And Amir Khusro was there in 13th century, I think. Yeah.
What were some of your influences? Like, what inspired you to write and direct and, do songs?
तो काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें. एक तो मेरे घर में माहौल, मतलब माय फादर इज़ अ ह्यूज फिल्म बफ.
अच्छा.
So he's an engineer, like he was with government military engineering services में थे, तो transferable job था. हम लोग इधर उधर जाते रहते थे, अलग अलग शहरों में रहे हम. But my father had this, he still has this great hunger for reading and watching cinema. और अभी उन्होंने वो डिस्कवर किया है ये सब OTT की दुनिया, तो वो ज़्यादा मेरे से ज़्यादा शोज वो देखते हैं. जबकि मेरा काम है देखना और कि क्या चल रहा है, क्या बना रहे हैं मेरे दोस्त और लोग. बट ही वॉचेज एवरीथिंग. सो गाने सुनने का बहुत शौक था. और वहाँ से लगता था कि राइटर जो होता है ना, कोई बहुत कूल चीज़ होती है. यू व्हेन यू क्रिएट समथिंग, एंड आई वाज ऑलवेज फैसिनेटेड बाय दैट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ सिनेमा. व्हेन आई वाज लिसनिंग टू सॉन्ग्स, I was more fascinated by words rather than the voices. Of course, greats like Kishore and Rafi and all, but still I was always like picking up words कि ये कहाँ से, ये शब्द कहाँ से आया, कि वो शाम कुछ अजीब थी, ये शाम भी अजीब है. What is that phrase? For a 10-year-old, it's just crazy to listen to Gulzar and like try to interpret it and like ये क्या बोल गए. For me, my initiation into writing was through poetry and through Hindi film lyrics.
In many ways, it's the Bollywood songs in India which kept the Kāma-shastra traditions alive. The South Indians, not just Bollywood, the whole film industry, which brings like my friend Paromita Vora once taught me, and she said that listen to the music carefully and listen to the lyrics, because the lyrics is where Kāma-shastra resides in India. And then you suddenly realize, oh my God, that's where it resides. Because I said it's all gone. He said, no, not gone. You listen to all the songs. 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Every lyricist in India brought Kāma-shastra into Indian homes through lyrics,
which were very poetic in the 50s and 60s and 70s, before we hit the 80s, which were kind of the dark.
तो आपको क्या लगता है 80s में क्या हुआ हमारे साथ?
80s में क्या हुआ? 80s में I think there is a serious answer to this.
Yes.
There is a non-serious answer.
We're only serious in this podcast.
Okay, serious answer. I think the first phase of writers in Hindi film industry, the people who wrote films in 40s, 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
They were actually literary giants.
Yeah.
They were actually poets who were just doing it as a side hobby. Like, ठीक है, commercial, ये घर चलाने के लिए करेंगे, लेकिन असल में हम शायर हैं, असल में हम राइटर हैं, नॉवेलिस्ट हैं. That era ended somewhere in 70s, and by 80s the film industry had become so commercial. It had no space for these giants. It had no space for people who knew the language, who knew the nuances of, as we were talking before, we had a bit of time, who knew the rasa theory of writing. कि किस तरह से रस इवोक होता है हमारी कहानियों में. इसलिए वो जो 50s और 60s, as Devdutt was also saying, कि are called the golden age of cinema, golden age of Hindi film music. वहाँ पे हर चीज़ पता थी उनको जो लिख रहे थे. That I think they also got bored of the community, the writing community, the serious writers. They got bored of Hindi cinema by 70s, and by 80s we were left on our own. And then we had great fun songs, but they were not poetry. And songs like Tofa 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 Laya Laya Laya. Now that is a song. It's the मुखड़ा. यही है मुखड़ा. तोहफा 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 लाया लाया लाया. वो उन्होंने 2 शब्द को 6 बार बोल के वो मुखड़ा बना दिया है. It's crazy. Then there is a song called
There was a song Mamma Mia Pom Pom.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I grew up in a family with 2 sisters.
Okay.
And I would always wonder why they would read some books at night and keep giggling. They would keep giggling. And my mother says, no, that is what girls do. So I was very curious, what is it that is making my sisters giggle? And then I realized they were these Mills and Boon books. And there were these, and then I'm like, obviously there's some. So I started reading these books, which only women are supposed to read, girls are supposed to read. So boys are not supposed to. Even if you go to library and you pick up a Mills and Boon, the librarian looks at you and saying, "Kiske liye le rahe hain aap?" And so I was like, but I want to find out why my sisters are giggling. So that was the whole thing. So what makes my sisters giggle? And then I realized there were these, every novel has a sex scene. And that's where the giggles start. And then, so that's how you sort of figured out what is. But I couldn't connect beyond a point because they were all, men and women, and I was gay, and I was very comfortable with being gay. It was never an issue. So it was so I was like, okay, I need something which I want to find, and I was surprised in Bombay streets you could get everything, because you would go to in those days, nowadays, you can get all kinds of videos and everything online. Those days, you had to go to, in Fort area, there were these places who would sell magazines, dirty magazines and all kinds. So you're going there and they know why you have come. You are trying to be, I shouldn't be seen, but they know. They are sellers, right? They look at you and then they'll show it to you and then they look at you, then they look at you and say, Acha, ye nahi pasand hai, come here. And then they would show me all the gay magazines because you come from a middle class neighborhood, from Chembur.
Yeah.
Going all the way to town itself was a radical, subversive move that you're traveling to town on a weekend. I was the only kid who used to go out on the weekend in my area and my people said, "Bahut posh aadmi hai." And I'm going there because that's the only place where gay people met. And, so, and I remember the first time stepping out. So it's really how you enter this world, and it's a new world for me. And that's when I realized that most people don't know about subcultures. They just don't know. But the thing is, when I entered the medical college where things, I studied in Grand Medical College, and it was in the early 90s when I entered medical college. Well, 89 really, it's 88, 89. And that's when the HIV/AIDS crisis was going on. And people don't remember it anymore. That is
early 80s.
80s.
Early
but in India, it enters much. It's in America where it is early 80s.
That's where it's...
By the time it reaches India, it is the 90s, when the world has woken up to the crisis. In America, when it started, they were denial, Reagan administration. But by the 90s, there was a proactive movement of the gay lobbies in America to find a cure, to find a way to... Those were words like safe sex coming in, and they were funding across all medical institutions. Doctors were worried because these cases were coming of young men whose immune system has collapsed, and it was serious. There were some very famous fashion designers in our country who passed away at that time. So it was a big thing, and people were talking about this. And the government was obviously took... And one of the things in Bombay that I'm always proud of is that the the municipality took charge because it was an issue. And imagine you're a closeted gay man, and the first time you hear about gay sex is through the government, which says it is illegal, but still talks about it because it's a health crisis.
Yeah. There's also, what is like the portrayal of gender and identity? And I want to come to you also on that because of how we portray the same in our cinema. But in our literature and mythology, what does it speak of? Because as from a Western perspective, it's a huge debate right now. It's he and she. That's it.
See, the West is stupid, so let's not go there.
But we are influenced by them, and the world runs by their rules.
Yeah, they are. But, they also keep changing their minds every few years, and they're not showing which direction to go. So they're a little confused, and it's very combative.
Yeah.
And combat is not pleasure. And since we're talking about pleasure, let's not talk about combative people.
Okay, but so what is our explanation of insights into gender and identity?
Traditionally in India, they would always have three genders.
Okay.
And it's a very beautifully put. They would say there's male, there's female, and there's others. It's just called third. Now, third is just others. So, for example, I'll give you an example of how practical this is. In 1857, again, I go back to 1857 because it's a very important year in our life, a cusp where things changed. And there is Godse Bhatt. So, Godse Bhatt, there's a Brahmin man who is traveling across the country and is the first person account of 1857 uprising, the only first person account we have, written by this Brahmin man who was traveling there for jobs. He was like, there was no job. He was going from kingdom to kingdom. He happened to be exactly where the 1870, the mutiny was and the uprising was taking place. Okay. So he's there in Jhansi at the time of Rani of Jhansi. And what is he telling? He is saying that the Rani of Jhansi's husband was known to be a person who used to cross-dress. It was known phenomena, and it's there in the film also. They've shown this fact that he was known phenomena. He said he's a good king, good administrator. His wife died. But he has this strange habit of cross-dressing, and therefore they want him to get married to a poor family because then they can, because nobody wants to get married to this man because they have a problem with his lifestyle. And this question is obviously on the streets, and he's listening to this on the streets. But then he makes a comment. He is one of the 8 types of sand. The 8 types of homosexuals or 8 types of queer. That word, we don't know what it means. It means queer. The easiest word is queer. But he's very clear that there are people in this world. And he makes this very strange comment. This city, it seems 25% of people are queer. 25% of people are
Jhansi.
Queer. Yeah. I think Jhansi or one of the cities. But he's making it in a very, he's not looking down upon it. It's a matter of fact. What did the scriptures say? The scriptures were very clear. There's male, there's female, there's others. So whoever doesn't fit into your clean binary should be dropped in this third basket. This third basket has multiple permutations and combinations. There'll be cross-dressers, there'll be transgenders, all these various words that you want to use from the alphabet mafia. Just put them all there because it's third. So it's a very easy classification system. There's male, there's female, there's others. Oh, you're not male and female, you're the other.
Native Americans had two-spirit.
Two-spirit. So now they've politicized and weaponized everything because these are the words of pleasure. In a world where you're talking about, where the primary objective, they're talking about marriage, which is legal, there is pleasure. Pleasure doesn't care about gender and sexuality. Pleasure, Kamadeva doesn't care who he shoots his arrows to. He doesn't say, oh, he's cisgendered, he's transgender. It doesn't matter. Pleasure is pleasure. And I think that attitude towards pleasure was very casual.
But your film Masaan dealt with similar themes, right?
Desire, with the idea of desire and female sexuality and just the word she uses in the film. So the film begins with this character, Richa Chadda's character, Devi, and she goes for a sexual encounter with a guy for the first time, and they just met a few days ago at a coaching and all, and they go there and they're caught by cops because cops randomly raid hotels and catch unmarried couples having sex. And she was asked ki kyun gayi thi. So the word she uses is, she says jigyasa, curiosity, and that is not an acceptable
reason,
justification for what you were doing. So then she's stigmatized, she's bullied by cops, her father is asked for bribes and all. So that is how the plot goes, but she lives with that dual stigma of, one, is curiosity like that bad a thing? So there is that internal stigma, and then there is the external oppression which comes with this incident of being caught by cops, and they make a video, and then they kind of try to threaten her into whatever, giving bribes and all. So that was the theme, and it came from a lot of research we did on ground, me and Neeraj Khewan, the director of the film. So tab hum jaake colleges mein, we would just sit and chat with the whatever the college going students. I was out of college at that time, 10 years out of college. So I was like, mujhe nahi pata hai abhi aaj ki duniya kya hai. And what was surprising was people were still not desiring a life of riches, a life of okay, Bombay mein jayenge ya ye karenge life mein ya wo. They just wanted sexual freedom, which was one thing which came through all the discussions we had. They wanted to have desire without stigma. That's all. Just ये सोचना कि सड़क पे अगर मुझे चलते हुए कोई लड़का अच्छा दिख रहा है, कोई लग रहा है, just have that freedom to
talk.
Yeah, to talk and to just say or not even talk. At least just look, and without being judged by people that you're looking at a guy. You are a woman in your 20s and you're looking at a guy across the street and you'll be judged for that. That was the kind of fear we saw, and immediately how Indian families judge. Like even boys get judged, or boys get
but arranged marriage is a thing
only in India. I think it's only in India जहाँ पे arranged marriage नाम की एक चीज़ है, जहाँ पे आपको family बताती है 25 साल तक कि आपको किसी लड़की के साथ नहीं दिखना है, आपकी टांगे तोड़ देंगे, और फिर 26वें साल में आपके चाचा जी कार्ड लेकर आते हैं कि उस दिन तुम उस लड़की को शाम को 6 बजे मिलोगे, 8 बजे फेरे होंगे, 10 बजे you'll be having sex and we'll be dancing outside, right? We'll be drunk and dancing outside, और उसके पहले तक तुमको 26 साल तक देखना भी नहीं है लड़की की तरफ. That's how we function in India, and that's just bizarre.
But do you think that our attitude towards sex and pleasure, which is so puritanical, doesn't it come from 200 years of British rule and Victorian values infused into the system?
See, the British made us, they brought the idea that sex is sin. Although they said that they don't want to mix religion and state and everything, this is when Victorian values actually starts entering the country in a strong way. And it was a very strategic thing. They basically said, if you are into pleasure, you are feminine. you're effeminate, and Indians are effeminate. And this was a very big thing. So even today you see the repercussions of that when you see this toxic masculine posturing which is happening.
Yeah, it's very Western.
They're really talking to those British guys.
Yeah.
The British guys argued this way. They said when the Mughals came to India, they came in leather pants. So when Babur came, he would have come in leather pants marching.
Yeah.
But when Bahadur Shah Zafar goes to Rangoon, he's wearing a silk petticoat. He says this is what India does to people. It makes them effeminate. Even the Genghis Khan's descendants started wearing silks and perfumes and talking poetry. I says they look down on something which we would say is culture.
But they weren't really cultured, right? So for them, it would have been jarring because they were pretty barbaric.
They were barbaric at that time, and pleasure was not something which is Europe ever. For them, pleasure was hedonism. It came from a very hedonistic, bacchanal, Dionysian way of thinking. So if you see the French Revolution, you see how it is. It's seen as this barbaric way of being. While in India, it was refinement. To be refined, to be poetic, to understand poetry, to understand music, to know the 64 arts. So even if you went to the Mughal courts, there were musicians, dancers, singers. It was all the culture of pleasure, which the British hated. And even today, when you go to the West, when they talk of pleasure, it's always seen, they don't see the spectrum of pleasure. It's there in food. It's there in fashion. So if you go to a temple in India, you give God bhog chadhate ho. Bhog is pleasure. You offer bhog to God.
Yeah.
So you have a God who enjoys
Life,
bhoga
being
vilas.
alive.
So while they will say it in a very crude way, they don't see the spectrum of self. So that is what Indians accepted the colonial discourse. So that idea never existed in India. Never. We never had this idea that sex is bad. It is just not there.
So, one of the reasons why we have this podcast is it's education, it's knowledge, it's acceptance, and a lot of it is, as the tagline goes, let's end good sex. And by that, we're trying to say is that how can we make good sex great? And it isn't just for the physical pleasure of it. As we've discussed, it's for knowing who you are, it's for your expression, and just exploring the world as you see it and understanding yourself within it. So how can, through literature, what have you got to say through your experiences as writers, mythologists, filmmakers, lyricists? How can you make good sex great sex? Like, how can someone do that? Through your medium, maybe?
I think one way is to normalize sex as a regular part of life and not make it titillating. Like कि अच्छा हाँ वो सिर्फ छुप के देखते हैं. जो idea है ना जो मैं बोल रहा था.
के पीछे क्या है type song.
हाँ वो patriarchy जो हमेशा से डरा के रखती है वो साथ में इसीलिए छोटे-छोटे उसने avenues दिए हुए हैं. Coming from वो जो शुरू में जो बात हो रही थी कि क्यों हमारा जो भी our view of sex and pleasure is so restricted and so Victorian. वो जहाँ से भी आया है Victorian है. फिर उसके बाद लेकिन हमने क्यों रखा है उसको संभाल के क्यों रखा है? उसको संभाल के इसलिए रखा है because it helps patriarchy. It just helps men to tell other men and to tell everyone, men, women, everyone, sex is bad. It just helps because that helps you create. अगर आपने डरा के रखा है तो फिर आपको बताना पड़ता है कि हाँ मैं बताऊंगा तब जो चाचा जी कि मैं बताऊंगा बेटे कब तेरी शादी होने वाली है, ठीक है, और कब तू सेक्स करेगा. टाइम भी लिख दूं उतने बजे करेगा तू, है ना. वो रात को वो 1 बजे जब तेरे को कमरे में भेजेंगे और वो दूध का ग्लास होगा उसके बाद ही करना है. वो तेरा टाइम फिक्स है.
दूध का ग्लास सीम्स टू बी
हाँ वो बहुत
पुराने जमाने का.
वो चाचा जी इज बेसिकली दैट. चाचा जी इज कंट्रोलिंग द नॉट जस्ट फीमेल सेक्सुअलिटी, द मेल सेक्सुअलिटी, द डिवाइड्स ऑफ रिलीजन, कास्ट, सब कुछ वो उसी से कर रहे हैं ना. क्योंकि सेक्स के साथ प्योरिटी जोड़ दी. सेक्स इज इक्वल टू प्योरिटी एंड प्योरिटी ऑफ रेस, ब्लड, रिलीजन, सारा. तो हमारा रिलीजन खराब हो जाएगा अगर आप दूसरे रिलीजन के किसी इंसान के साथ सेक्स कर लोगे. हमारी कास्ट खराब हो जाएगी. हमारा जो भी फैमिली, औरत हमारी खानदान की अगर किसी और से जाके सेक्स कर लेगी, शादी तो दूर की बात, सिर्फ सेक्स कर लेगी, दैट इज इनफ टू make us impure. So that is something, it came from wherever, but it fitted very neatly into our hierarchies in India and it just helped us. So इसलिए हमने उसको बचा के रखा हुआ है, इसलिए हम उसको बहुत संभाल के रखते हैं. और वो सिनेमा ने भी उसको ही एड किया है. फिल्मों में भी आप देखेंगे तो जो आइडिया ऑफ this purity is always there. Women are always pure in cinema, and that's why I wanted to talk about Devdi, where something. It was a very revolutionary image that Paro goes seeking desire. अपना वो गद्दा लेके जाती है साइकिल पे, खेत में जाती है, देव को वहाँ बुलाती है. That is and it should not be revolutionary image, but it is, and it has remained even after like 16 years of that film.
No, for me it's two things. So one is academia has to play a very important role. I'll give you an example. There was this gentleman who wanted to do research on Firaq Gorakhpuri's Urdu poetry. Firaq Gorakhpuri was a gay writer. His real name was Raghupati Sahai. And he was a master in Urdu.
How long are we talking about? How long back?
Independence
time.
40s, 50s. And this gentleman wanted to do PhD on his work because he was really respected but also mocked for his sexuality. Very respected. Now he applied to every university in India and he was not allowed to do the PhD. They said, okay, you do PhD on his work but don't talk about his sexuality.
You can do, someone wanted to do a PhD of his work.
Of his work. So they said, all the department said, the Urdu department said, you can talk, and it's in India. He went to every university in India and they said, you can write about his poetry, but don't talk about his sexuality. Yeah. So I think academicians also become gatekeepers. It is not just the patriarchal uncle out there. They are sitting in the universities and schools where you allowed people to read erotic poetry. Tamil poetry. Why are we not being taught the Tamil poetry? Why are we not being taught the Sanskrit poetry? Why is any conversation on romance and pleasure, which you just read Sanskrit poetry and you will know what is eroticism. It just makes you numb with the pleasure which is there in it. It's rich. Wow. It's like a gold mine. It's Ali Baba's cave out there. And we're talking about Sanskrit. Read Sanskrit poetry which is erotic. Yeah. And you learn a lot about India. One. Yeah. But the second is, again, I mentioned Paramita Vora earlier. She came, we were talking once and she said how we approach sex education in our country only in two ways. Ya to tum pregnant ho jaoge. So that is a fear. या तुम्हें sexually transmitted disease होगा, the HIV/AIDS approach. Nobody looks at it through the lens of pleasure. Yeah. That sex is pleasure. Yeah. It's about fun. So she came up with this website called Agents of Ishq, which talks about pleasure. And young people contribute to it. It's crowdsourced, and I think that's a good place to go, where Agents of Ishq, and there's artists working on it. So there's art, there is culture, it's Hindi mein, English mein, and it's very difficult, but it's where people talk about things which you have never thought of. Yeah. What excites you? What do you do with a condom after sex? Who removes the condom? Where is love? So the best thing is the one who removes the condom is showing love. It is nothing to be ashamed of. That's how you express love. What happens when your lover or your husband is not he's very romantic, but his body is not responding? How does a wife react to that? How do you deal with these very simple things? But it's real things. Yeah. I think these are questions which if discussed openly, it will be great.
Nice. So now we're going to come to a section of the podcast, which is a game we play. Mm-hmm. And today's game we call Say It Without Saying It. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to give you two this each. For you. One for you.
G.
So for example, this is called Durex Mutual Climax. Ribs and dots designed to speed her up. Performer lubricant to slow him down. And what you have to do with this is write down, it could be a line, dialogue, lyric, or anything that could best describe the product in your way. Okay. So now, in your own words, you have to describe it. Now it could be
nice. I got a very nice Hindi
metaphor, innuendo. Lyrics. Make it fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah? What do you have? Great for boys with girls, not for boys with boys or toys. Yeah.
So एक तो फिल्म का नाम भी वो ये कॉन्डम का दूसरा नाम जो होता है एक दूजे के लिए
एक दूजे के लिए. That's right.
The line is हम तुम दोनों जब मिल जाएंगे एक नया इतिहास बनाएंगे.
I think they're both brilliant. तो ये है Durex Elevate Performer Capsules for Men. Helps improve performance, helps increase testosterone.
Okay, so they are supposed to be
supplement, basically,
okay.
For performance. For those days when heart desires, mind wants, body rebels. Okay, fair enough.
अच्छा.
हाँ जी, अभी आपकी
बहुत
बारी है,
जल्दी
सर।
आपने लिख दिया. मैं
है
तो
ना?
इसमें सोच रहा हूँ कि क्या क्या हो सकता है. Okay.
Difference between mythologist and writer and screenwriter.
This is
It's
a
a,
bit too much of experience in certain matters.
आ रहा है.
Oh, good one.
Durex
That's
is
really
the
good.
secret of my energy.
Durex is zero mileage.
I can actually see the ad.
Elevate climax delay spray for men, which I
Delay
guess.
spray.
हाँ, ताकि
for
आप
men. Okay.
ज़्यादा जल्दी ना काम खत्म हो जाए.
Okay, this time I'm done first.
लम पिचकारी जो
तूने
तूने
खुद को मारी
हाँ
तो सीधी सादी छोरी दीवानी हो गई. Because the song anyway, बलम पिचकारी जो तूने मुझे मारी is I think quite
yeah already there.
sexy. Yeah.
जानबाज जल्दबाज नहीं होते.
जाबाज जल्दबाज नहीं होते.
Yes.
क्या बात है. Nice.
Yes.
क्या बात.
This is a fun game. Water-based lubricant, strawberry flavored. It's just strawberry water-based lube. For every orifice too. Yes, that's true. ये क्या है?
ज़बां पे लागा रे टेस्ट स्ट्रॉबेरी का.
Fantasy role play. The game है ये.
This is a game.
Yeah.
This is like
A role-playing game. So the blue card is for him, beige is for her.
Okay.
The first few cards set the story.
So don't dim the lights too much.
Yeah, that you can't read.
हाँ.
Feels a card example.
हाँ.
Artist and muse. And it
Okay.
says, this is a beige card. So this is for her.
Okay,
Yeah, like
you
secret agents है
Basically
ये card.
paint on each other's back.
तू खिलाड़ी मैं अनाड़ी. Okay. Fair play. Enough sport, now games.
Ah,
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that was really nice. It was fun. It's a fun game. Which brings me to the last segment, which
Ji.
is the Durex Pleasure Wall.
हाँ.
It's basically product from Durex to elevate, enhance your sex life.
अच्छा.
Yeah. And everything. Actually, I should take you to the wall and show you all the stuff we have. Yeah?
Ji.
Let's go. So this is the Durex Pleasure Wall, and we have games, condoms, lubes, and devices to enhance pleasure. तो आप select कीजिए जो आपको चाहिए, आपके hamper में हम डाल देंगे.
So these are the devices.
Yeah.
This
It's also men.
Yeah, this looks like a speaker. I initially thought इसमें sexy गाने बजते होंगे.
वो भी बजेंगे.
पर हाँ
पर
मतलब
वो
ये आप
आपसे निकलेंगे.
ये yeah, you use it और दिमाग में बजेंगे.
We'll get you another piece. So, yeah.
It's
I
the
think you're both to take
closest
one of each.
engagement ring of a different kind.
Yeah,
Yes,
why
it is.
bring? Why bring? Why not?
Take one of each for each of you all, no? Why not?
And why bullet? Which, okay, it's like a bullet shot of pleasure.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
No, I think this is good.
Is that good for you? You don't want this?
This is.
Slide
I
and
want to
ride.
gift it to people, but it'll look very vulgar if some older person gives this to a younger person, no?
I mean, depends on your relationship with that person.
yeah, आप speaker बोल के दे दो ना.
हाँ, speaker. और बोलेंगे हाँ, बुड्ढा
चलता
को याद
कैसे
नहीं है.
बोलो इसमें गाने
Then we'll
बज-
figure it.
इसको बजाओ.
और ये हैं supplements, if you can, for men and for women. But I suppose you all will
Supplements
take the men one.
Performa, climax.
Performer and
And-
climax. हाँ.
No, I think I'll move on.
Okay.
Lots of- yeah. Nice. And this mutual climax, जिसकी हमने tagline भी लिखी थी.
Invisible.
Is that chocolate bubble gum?
If he takes, we can get another one. Doesn't matter. We have duplicates.
No, just the thought of chewing.
It's the flavor. Oh God! Something आप chocolate strawberry देखकर आप तो chew कर लोगे. Shit.
Then there are games. Yeah, games are fun. So there was that thing I really I want.
I like this
Anna?
one.
For-
I like the name.
Yeah.
The name is so cool.
Yeah.
Delicious positions
I like
of
the
play
Google.
and Snap, a game where everyone wins. Okay, sure,
Yeah,
definitely.
why not?
Yeah. We got a
Great,
good
yeah.
Good, this
chunk.
is
Yeah.
nice
Awesome.
haul.
Nice haul.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today's episode. It was insightful, enlightening, fun, humorous, all of those things.
you.
And it just added a whole new dimension to the topic. And thank you for doing this with me and being with me and supporting us. And
Thank
I
you.
wish
It
you
was
could
fun.
keep this going. Yeah.
It was great fun. और पता नहीं कैसे आप इतनी चीजें याद
हाँ
रखते
जी।
हैं, इतनी सारी चीजें,
खुद
इतनी सारी
encyclopedia
कहानियां,
आप।
इतने सारे नाम और इतने सारे उनके connections with where we are today. It's
No, the best
amazing.
thing is I could talk so much in something which is supposed to block things. So I felt very liberating, ironically.
No, but Durex isn't just condoms. It's all of these
it's
other
a-
things
oh
as
yeah,
well.
that's
Yeah, we
true.
just-
That's
yeah,
true. The whole
condoms
thing.
is just
yeah.
one.
I
one
I didn't know
section.
about it really. I was quite.
No, they have games where you dim the light and then try to read, then you again increase the light, then you read, then you go have sex, then come back. Poop,
And I
pick
think
out
the
another
brand also
card.
stands for awareness and support. So it's all of those things, and you just help them enhance that. So thank you so much.
And saving electricity. by-
And that's it for this episode, guys. When sex is either completely censored or used purely for shock value, it strips away the depth and meaning of intimacy and its portrayal. But thoughtful storytelling and open conversations can change that. And as always, if you enjoyed the episode, like and subscribe to the channel for more updates. And remember to read voraciously but consciously and keep ending good sex. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.